It's the Flame Central podcast powered by Alcova Mortgage. And I know this is a sight to see that no one ever thought that they would see. Emily Austin all alone doing the Flame Central podcast powered by Alcova Mortgage. Or is it? Because Matt and Joe both missing in action. Hits summertime, they're taking vacations, they're hitting the links, and they leave the pregnant lady here to pick up all the pieces. Now, we do have a great conversation coming with Director of Athletics Ian McCAW your way here in just a moment. We cover a wide range of things the past year in Liberty Athletics and just the success, what's next for the Liberty Flames. And then, of course, there's a new era in state of college athletics coming with obviously the NIL and the transfer portal, but we'll also discuss the House settlement. So since our conversation with Ian McCAW, the House settlement has been approved. For those of you who don't know what that is, what's going on, it'll back pay former athletes from 2016. Just missed the cut by quite a few years there. But that includes $2.8 billion in back pay to those former athletes. It'll also give direct compensation from the university to the student athlete. In year one, each school can share up to $20.5 million to pay their athletes, a number that represents 22% of their revenue from things like media rights, ticket sales, sponsorships, but that doesn't count the collective and other NIL benefits that a student athlete can receive. We'll dive a little bit deeper into this with Ian McCAW here in just a moment. It also eliminates scholarship limits and it puts in place roster limits as well. So there'll be some roster cuts throughout some of the sports. But the settlement eliminates the NCAA's current sport-by-sport athletic scholarship limits, allowing schools to offer more scholarships and potentially more opportunities for the athletes. I'm pretty sure I covered it all, but I think, that's it. So $20.5 million, and that'll increase annually by 4% for the student athletes and that amount of revenue sharing from this House settlement. We also want to say good luck to Kellen Kimes, Paola Bueno, and Allie Zealand, who are heading to Eugene this week to compete in nationals. So we'll give you their updates next week. We will have Flame Central podcast throughout the summer, so be sure to stay locked in. We'll be talking to former Flames who are playing in the pros on the hardwood, on the gridiron, so be sure to stay with us all summer long. I'll try to see if I can get Matt and Joe back in studio, so I won't be doing this all alone. But to hear more about, like I said, the transfer portal and the NIL, and especially this House settlement, let's go to this conversation with Ian McCAW. You know it's going to be a great Flame Central podcast powered by Alcova Mortgage when you have the man of the hour,
yes,
Director of Athletics, Ian McCAW, on the show. It's kind of a bittersweet time of year because that means like seasons are over and we're kind of in summer mode. But I feel like with sports and college athletics these days, there's never an off season when it comes to recruiting and all of that. But wrapping up the 2024-2025 athletic department year, give me one word that describes it for you.
Yeah, I would say two words: comprehensive success. I just think across the board, our teams did really well. We won 13 conference championships. That ties for the most in school history. Over the last 2 years, 25 championships, most in a 2-year period. So a lot of success. 15 of our 20 teams won a championship either this year or last year. So that's what excites me. It's not just one team or two teams. It's just across the board. Our teams really perform at a high level. And obviously we had some breakthrough at the national level this year with softball and men's and women's basketball, making news for us. So that really helps build our brand, and that's going to be good for the years to come. So we're excited about where we're going.
When you made the move to Conference USA, I'm sure there's always we think we can compete. We're pretty confident, but now having seen 2 years in, how proud are you of just in some cases, like men's and women's basketball, the jumps that they were able to make and how our programs have come along in this very competitive league.
Yeah, Matt, great point. Because you're always a little hesitant when you move up in weight class. You're just not sure exactly how it's going to go. And we've taken 2 pretty big jumps in not that long between Big South to ASUN to Conference USA, and so higher level competition, better athletes, and we've raised our game, and we're competing at a really high level. So it's been exciting to see. Really proud of the coaches and staff and the student athletes. We received great support from President Costa and Chancellor Falwell and the university, and again, I think the best is yet to come.
What are the couple of teams that maybe in this year that surprised you? That was like, whoa, I didn't expect to get that type of finish from them.
Yeah, we had a couple nice breakthroughs. It started off really well with both cross-country teams winning conference championships. That was exciting to see. And then, of course, lacrosse was one that hadn't won a conference championship before, so breaking through, that's encouraging. And I think we have some others that are poised to have really good years next year as well. So I really feel good about the overall makeup of the athletic program. We're going to be entering into a new era here in the post-House settlement, and we're going to have to adapt and change, but I think we have a really good plan to do that.
Yeah, explain for our listeners and viewers who don't understand what's going on with that. Can you put it?
Dumb it down.
Yeah, dumb it down.
What he's trying to say is,
dumb it down for
me.
Dumb it down. For our viewers, they probably can't understand a lot of this stuff. Yeah.
AKA for me that don't want to, read all the transcripts.
Yeah. So assuming the House settlement's approved, which everyone expects,
And that's supposed to happen?
that should happen any day, really.
day now.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You could have breaking news. You never
Breaking
know.
news.
So
Right here in the
but
Facebook.
there'll be new roster limits for every sport.
And we expect those to go to football, for example.
Football will go down to 105.
105.
Will be the limit. So most schools are 115, 120, 125
But
right
all
now.
those are scholarship, correct?
No, they could be, but
They
they
could be, they don't have
won't
to be.
necessarily be. Yes. So there'll be new roster limits instead of scholarship limits. We'll be able to pay NIL to student athletes from the university directly. That'll be new. And then there's a new enforcement model that kind of oversee all of that. So those would be the main changes. But again, it's going to be very different than it has been in the past. And when you're compensating student athletes, you hope you can keep culture in a good spot. And I think our coaches have spent a lot of time thinking through how that's going to work.
Yeah, I think culture, but I also, one thing that makes me sad about hearing the roster limits are those incredible stories that we get from the walk-ons. So that won't really happen anymore.
Yeah, we'll still have walk-ons,
Okay.
but there'll probably be fewer walk-ons. So our we'll have I would say about 50 or 60 less student athletes in total, but there'll still be walk-ons in every sport.
Okay.
There just won't be quite as many.
Are there sports, because sometimes you hear from coaches the downside, we're going to have to trim some kids because of these limits. Are there sports where this is a huge positive, that it's going away from just you have X number of scholarships, but now you can scholarship more than you have in the past?
Yeah, we're going to have a number of sports that will have more scholarships than they have in the past, and we also have to have this plan compliant with Title IX.
Right.
So there's been a lot of work done over the last 6 months on it. But yeah, there are definitely going to be Liberty sports that will benefit both in terms of more scholarships as well as also having some NIL resources to work with. And so the combination of that we feel has us poised to continue to have a lot of success as we have, and we're really excited about how our programs are going to perform in 25, 26.
So with the devil in the details, with the revenue sharing part of it, is the rules allow the athletic department from whatever funds that they receive, it has to be and correct me if I'm wrong, it has to be within the athletic department, and then you can then use that money to pay athletes up to, is it $20 million? Am I saying this correctly? Or when you say university funds, can those funds come from the endowment, come from somewhere else, or does it have to only be funds generated within the athletic department?
Yeah, it has to be part of the athletic department budget. So there's some flexibility as far as that goes. So you're right, the cap for next year is $20.5 million. So the Power 4 schools, most of those will be at $20.5 million. Some are not. Some are not going to be able to quite get there. At the Group of 5 level, where we are, I think a lot of schools are struggling to get a couple $1 million together for revenue share, and I think we're going to be well positioned both in Conference USA and within the Group of 5 to have good resources.
So then what you're saying there when you said that is you can use the university's funds in order to increase your athletic budget and then use that money to be able to pay the players, correct?
You could, absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And how long have you been in athletics overall?
This is total years in athletics, I think 35. I've been athletic director for 28. So yeah, this is a new frontier.
I know. Did you ever think it would get to this point?
No, I didn't. And,
really?
But I love leadership. I love change. I like adapting. I like solving mysteries and solving problems. And so that's made this year really kind of enjoyable. And again, we think we have a good plan. We think we're ready to execute, but we need to make sure we're putting one foot in front of the other as we do that.
So in the NIL stuff we've seen the last few years, there's been a push, and you see it. Every school had a collective and all that stuff, and so there was a big push for fans. Like, hey, give to these collectives. Subscribe to different things that help feed the collectives. What can Flames Nation do now with this model if they want to help further the cause and help add to that budget that you talk about within athletics? Are there ways that the fan base can still get involved in that? What does that look like?
Yeah, great point, Matt. So Flames Rising's been our primary collective, and they've done a phenomenal job over the last 2 years, really resourcing our programs to be successful. We would not have had the success that we've had without Flames Rise and the contributions they've made. So they've done a great job. Begin July 1, though, that's all going to change, because with internal NIL, it's just going to be a different model. Deloitte is going to be overseeing this clearinghouse, and they're going to be looking at external NIL deals much more differently. So most schools are bringing the NIL operation in-house, and we're going to do a similar transition here. But fans and donors are still going to be able, after July 1, to contribute. So if you want to support Dot Richardson and you want softball to go to the Women's College World Series next year, you can make a donation through the Flames Club, and those dollars will be directed to an excellence fund where Dot could utilize those for NIL.
Oh, so you are partnering with the Flames Club in order to keep it. Okay. And then the other question I was in, with what the revenue sharing part of it, the $20 million, above that, what Matt's talking about, now you got Flames Club and all these different, is there going to be a cap on that, on what you can give? Or is it, hey, Texas, you want to add in another $100 million from whatever, from the oil tycoon, then go ahead and add it in. Is there going to be any limitations to that side of it?
Yeah, so truthfully, that remains to be seen. But that's going to be that's going to be
that's a big part of it.
That's going to be up to Deloitte, who runs this clearinghouse, to really evaluate these NIL deals. And so if Matthew McConaughey wants to have Arch Manning be in one of his movies and pay him $5 million, is that going to be approved, or is that going to have to count against the $20.5 million cap? And that's going to be a really big question that honestly we don't know the answer to.
Or the Liberty Parallel, if Joe wants to have athlete in an Alcova commercial.
Which we have done.
Which we have done. So you are, I'm not saying you are our Matthew McConaughey, but
I mean, McConaughey got nothing on it.
Yeah, it's in the same ballpark.
So I think it was last year that Joe wanted to have the flamethrower in the indoor.
Yeah, that was a tough one. Ian doesn't know about that. We were trying to see if we could run it up the channels to see if we could bring the flamethrower on campus. And let's just say we met some resistance.
We got lost in a lot of paperwork.
I said, and after it all settled, I said, hey guys, just make sure Ian doesn't hear about this. But here we are. It's breaking news on the Flames Central Bar.
I think Coach Chadwell approved it, and Brad Queen said no.
I think he was like behind Coach going,
we're not doing that.
Chadwell was like, yeah, come on, bring it on.
Oh, man. So we talked a little bit about the NIL. I have attachment, emotional roller coaster issues.
She's pregnant, so she's crying a lot.
Tell
her about your daughter's wedding. She'll start bawling.
I probably will. It's just hard for me to see, athletes come for a couple years and just transfer right out, or when I can see when athletes do stick at Liberty a couple years, just how much they grow in their faith and as young men and women. So I'm just like, no, stay. Don't chase the money. But what are your thoughts about just the transferring and just instant transfer? What do you see changing about that in the near future? Because I feel like there has to be some limitations. I mean, you shouldn't just be able to transfer like 5 or 6 times in your college career, in my opinion.
Yeah, Emily, that's a really good point. And we actually looked at some of the national data recently, and Liberty student athletes retain better than the national average, which you'd expect because they're coming here because we're a Christian university. They love our mission. They love what this university is about. We have a great culture, great coaches. So we retain better than most, but we're going to need to adapt to this because there's just so many voices voices out there in the ears of these student athletes, encouraging them to look out there. The grass is greener, and often the grass is not greener, as we know, but they're 20 years old and they're hearing things, so we need to be able to operate well in this new transitional environment. But again, I think we need to stick to our core mission. We need to have a strong culture, and if we do those two things well, I think we're going to retain well, and the student athletes who transfer here absolutely love it. They just have a great experience, and many of them come from Power 4 schools, and they say Liberty's far better and offers far more than I had at the Power 4 level. So,
well, and we even saw, talking to Dot a couple of weeks ago after their season concluded, like you can be fully on mission and living out Liberty's mission as a coaching staff, as a head coach, be just out there using every platform as an opportunity to share the gospel like Dot does and her program does.
Yeah.
And that doesn't limit you from winning at the highest level on the biggest stages. Yeah. And so I think that's an encouraging thing for all of us that are here and are living in Liberty Athletics, that like, the mission doesn't, we don't have to dilute it so we can, get good athletes and so we can win. Like, you can still win at the highest level by doing what we're supposed to be.
Yeah, she's a great example, obviously. Yeah.
So with that being said, in your eyes, with your experience in athletics, what do you think the rules should be? In today's day and age with all the NIL and all that.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to be able to slow down the transfer portal. That's open. I do think instead of having, for example, in football, having 2 portals, I think we should only have 1. We need to adjust the rules a little bit, but student athletes are going to have the ability to move. That's not going to change. They're going to have the ability to benefit from name, image, and likeness. That's not going to change. We do need a few more guardrails put in place, and I think that's what's going to happen after the House settlement, where there'll be, again, Deloitte will oversee the clearinghouse. A company called LBI is going to oversee the cap, do kind of the cap management system. And so that's going to put us in a better spot than we are right now, where it's just
chaos.
It is. It's chaos.
It's hard to build and manage a roster.
Yeah.
Especially for football.
And I know the university doesn't want technically them become employees, but so is contracts a simple solution to that, being that, hey, you come here, we'll pay you X amount of dollars, but we're locking you in for the next 3 years or 4 years. Can we just treat it like the NFL, like the NBA, whatever it may be, that you just sign you transfer in from other schools as a freshman and you sign a 3-year contract? Could that be a solution to keep the transfer portal from being so chaotic?
Well, we will have NIL contracts with actually every one of our student athletes. So one of the decisions that we made, really led by President Costin, is we're going to provide NIL for every student athlete at Liberty, regardless of what team you're on. Everyone's going to get some NIL, and that'll be a point of difference for us. That'll be a recruiting benefit as well.
Oh, wow.
So every student athlete will have an NIL agreement, and it'll spell out, their responsibilities and what they'll receive in terms of benefits. And so again, that's going to be a lot of work on our part, but that's
But
again.
can you, if you had a star quarterback,
you could do a multi-year deal.
Do you feel as if, let's say you go after a 4-star quarterback, and you're going to come in and we're going to pay him X amount of dollars. You got 4-star quarterbacks, but if you come here, we'll give you this. You got to stay for 3 years, 4 years, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Do you believe that if that quarterback has great success and Alabama says, no, we want you right now after your freshman year for $8 million a year, that you'll be able to enforce that contract to keep them out from going to the transfer portal?
Yeah, we think no. We think the answer to that legally is no. But so the way we're going to approach it is we're going to do 1-year contracts that will reevaluate at the end of a year. And if someone outperforms their contract and their name, image, and likeness expands and they become a national figure, we'll adjust to that. And there'll be cases the other way that it doesn't work out, and someone maybe doesn't get the playing time they want and thinks, I may need to transfer another school where I can play because it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to get on the field at Liberty. So again, different system, different approach, but again, we're going to do it the right way, and I think we'll end up in a really good spot. Yeah.
Wow.
Every year when we have you on, we always say, what else is there that we could build? It seems like we have everything.
You've heard my dad joke, right?
Yep.
About instead of having like Sparky, we need to be the cranes.
The cranes.
Yes,
the cranes, and it just be a construction crane.
It gets better every year when you do that. What is on the horizon? Are there other projects that are coming down the line for
Oh, I know one big one, but go ahead and answer first.
Yeah.
Would you let him handle this?
You're on the show every week, Jeff.
We'll address the next one after he's done.
There's 2 projects we're just wrapping up. We're getting ready to have grand openings for. One is the baseball pitching lab, and so that's kind of its final stages. So we'll have a grand opening for that here before too long. And then the golf practice facility is just about done. Got to do some seeding and planting this summer, but that's awesome. Almost done as well. And that'll be really nice. Those will be 2 really elite facilities, as good as anywhere in the country. But
you're a big golfer, right?
I'm good at putt-putt. Yeah,
hey, I need to play scramble with you because I do not putt.
We can do that.
I like that.
But the big project right now, honestly, it's NIL. I mean, that's the difference maker right now, and we're blessed with amazing facilities here, and there's been investment over the last 10 or 15 years in facilities, so we have what we need in that regard. Where we need to be competitive is in NIL, and we don't necessarily need to have the most, but we need to put ourselves in a position where we can be competitive, because every student athlete, prospective student athlete, and every parent that comes on campus at this point, that's one of the first questions. Sure. Is there NIL? How much NIL? And we need to be able to speak to that.
Sure. So Joe, whatever you think you know, obviously it's not ready for public consumption yet. If you have some breaking, we'll talk about it off the air.
No. I just
is that what he was going to say? The pickleball complex?
Well, I just wanted to say, once Liberty decides to go D1 in pickleball, and we build a pickleball center, we will sit down, Ian. We'll do it in your office.
This is your interview,
We'll do it in your office, and we'll do a face, and we're going to figure out what do we have to do to pull Joe Yock away from Alcova Mortgage in order to hire him as the inaugural head pickleball coach at Liberty University.
Can you imagine him being one of your employees?
Have to be a 10-year contract.
It's a 10-year deal, and we're talking big money.
I was going to ask what the 10-year vision looked like for Liberty, but it's probably not that.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's just continuing to grow up in the conference rankings, and I know it's important to stay in the moment, but what is is the ACC like the ultimate goal? Is that going to change so much? Because it has changed so much over the years. Yeah, you don't really look at that?
Yeah, I think conference realignment's paused a little bit because of this lawsuit and the House settlement. I think once that's in place, I think conference realignment's going to reopen again here, and I think there's some schools that are going to be able to invest, and there's some schools that are not going to be able to invest, and that may trigger some further conference realignment that, again, I think will be favorable towards Liberty.
Oh my goodness, this is going to be something else.
You have to promise.
See, that was read between the lines right there.
Yes, no press release. You're coming on the Flame Stitcher podcast.
To break that news. I guess the other question, and you may not feel comfortable speaking to this, but just the health of Conference USA as a whole. I know UTEP has one more year before they go. Missouri State and Delaware are coming in this coming season. Where do you see that going? As it stands now, New Mexico State is off on an island, and so that'll be different for our teams in terms of travel. You want to have 2 schools on out west. How do you just kind of maybe grade out the health and direction of Conference USA as a whole?
Yeah, I really like some of the new ads. So Delaware is a really good addition. That's a really good broad-based program, flagship institution. I think they're going to be really strong very quickly. Great football tradition and very committed to other sports. They will have, I think, the second highest budget in the conference behind us. So they're going to step right in and be competitive.
Okay.
Missouri State, good ad, good broad-based program, very good basketball, good baseball. I think they'll add a lot as well. So I think those are 2 really good ads for the conference. We do lose UTEP, and you're right, New Mexico, that is a kind of a geographical issue to deal with. But I think the presidents are very content with 11 schools moving forward, and I think we feel really good about the leadership and just the overall direction of Conference USA. Yeah.
For the haters that when you're on Twitter during football season, especially when Liberty went to the Fiesta Bowl, they don't play anyone, yada yada. Where does it stand, moving forward? What excites you about building out this football schedule and strengthening it, for years to come?
I love some of the rivalry games we've been able to get. Obviously, James Madison, playing JMU, that's a great game. That'll be our most anticipated game this year. Getting Coastal back on the schedule is going to be really good. The series with Virginia Tech, of course, is really attractive. We've got a couple more that we're working on in the outer years. So I feel really good about it. I know our fans were disappointed. We had Virginia and Duke and Wake drop us, and that was not optimal. But I think that those schools have received briefings and information from their conference that it's not great to play road games against really good Group of 5 programs, And that's who we are. We're a really good group of 5 program that can beat you. And when you beat Arkansas and you beat Syracuse and you beat Virginia Tech, people take notice and they don't want to be added to that list. So that's made the football schedule a lot more difficult.
Last thing for me, because we hear similar things, Richie McCAW says about building out a basketball schedule. Do you feel like that's becoming one of the more difficult parts about being a really good athletics program in general across multiple sports, getting schools to come here and play us because we've had success and because it's not like, there's chalk up a W there when you play Liberty? Has it become more difficult to schedule?
Depends a little bit on the sport.
Yeah.
Some coaches are really glad to play us because we're a good RPI team, and so we get those midweek ACC baseball games, and Nikki in field hockey has a really good schedule, gets a lot of ACC teams as well.
Softball too.
Softball does.
Yeah.
So we get kind of the benefit of you play Liberty, it's a good RPI game, so some schools are willing to play us, but then others are, if I take this loss, this is probably not great for my job security. And so some coaches are hesitant. So it really just depends on the program and the school.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Ian, what else do you have going on this summer? Going on any vacations or doing anything fun?
It's the summer of weddings. We had one of our daughters got married this past Saturday. Another one's getting married in September. So I'm father of the bride.
Yeah.
That's the deal here. So yeah.
Did you get emotional walking your daughter down the aisle?
I was pretty good, but I saw her husband crying, and she started crying. I was trying to hold it together, but it was pretty special. Yeah.
Oh, Joe knows what that's like. You cried, right?
Yeah.
I cried when I first saw her, and then you're gonna make me cry. And then when we went down we turned just like you said, and saw her husband there and went down the aisle. It is a very something else.
Let's change the subject.
Change subject. She's gonna start crying.
Awesome, Ian. Well, thank you so much. We're so excited for what you've done, what you're doing with this athletic program, and it's just really cool to see all these sports and all these student athletes really grow so much in their faith and their athletic ability under your leadership.
Well, thanks. God is pouring out his favor on our program. No doubt about it. So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Excited to see where it goes next.